Hello, friends in YouTube land or whatever land you live in. Um, Thank you for coming. I have a few people in chat already. Let's see. Looks like we have
Coming. I have a
Robsky.
few people in chat already. Let's see.
Oh, sorry, I had to mute my I had to mute my YouTube. Um, I know I talk a lot, but I don't necessarily like to hear myself talk. So yeah, I gotta mute the YouTube. So I have Robsky in the chat. Robsky is an amazing, very supportive individual from another content creator that I followed religiously during the Depp v. Heard trial. And that channel is Auditing the Absurd. And Ranty is the host of that show. And he was awesome. And he and one of his co hosts gave me a really big shout out one of the days during a break. And I went from like something like 280 some odd 89 subs to 348. So I was pretty excited about that. And since then, Robsky's been showing up to show support, and I really appreciate that. And Jazz Gaming, hi, so happy that you're here. And I'm pretty sure that I saw Katie did it. Hello, Katie did it. And Colette M, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. The circus, as it can sometimes be referred to. um, so, what I decided to do was I kind of thought that since I got that great shout out and I got like 60 some odd more new subs to the channel, I didn't really not I haven't spoken to anybody from that YouTube channel, Auditing the Absurd, who knows anything about Daniel's case. And it was really awesome because regardless of whether they knew anything about it or not, um, they were shouting out my channel and stuff, and asking people to come and sub and to come over and watch the shows. And I thought that was really cool because they didn't have to do that. And it's nice to have subs, of course. I guess from what I understand, it's a big deal. And for me, it's about getting the word out about Daniel's case. Like that's all that matters to me about it. And I decided to go with YouTube because I couldn't think of any other way to do it when I first got involved. So I went with YouTube, and it hasn't been horrible. I mean, we've had some really good views on a lot of the shows, or a lot of the podcast lives, whatever you want to call them. And so, it's been good, but I'd like to get more. Yes, Robsky, it is. It's a community thing, and we, those of us who were religiously followed the Depp v. Heard trial. I didn't follow that trial because I'm a huge fan of Johnny Depp. I like some of his movies, yeah, of course. And I didn't even know who the hell Amber Heard was. But for me, it was about being um, accused, wrongfully accused. Uh, that was the goal, was to find out. It for me was to find out if Johnny was being, wrongfully accused of these horrible things that his ex-wife accused him of. And that was my goal. I wanted to find out, and I wanted to see the process in action. And it was such a big deal to be doing a defamation suit because, that involves making claims about somebody publicly that could hurt them, or can or will hurt them, in any way, I guess. I suppose certainly financially, but in other ways as well. Many things. So, or many ways. So it was for me about a possible wrongful allegation. And yes, like Robsky said, it's a community thing. And if you believe in supporting the exposure of wrongful convictions, then yes, Daniel's case fits right in there because it's different. A conviction is different from an allegation or a defamation. Of course, a conviction is worse in my opinion, in our opinion, because somebody is spending time in jail or prison or whatever their punishment might be. But in Daniel's case, he's spending 263 years in prison. So I greatly appreciated the shout outs from Auditing the Absurd and Clairview, who was one of his co-hosts. Hey, Yoris, welcome, nephew, to the chat. It was, and no name. How are you doing? Nice to see you again. So it was it was important to me that if they were going to help me get subs, the least I can do for those who did sub and are interested in my content, the least I could do was kind of do a really basic reboot or restart or fresh look of what Daniel's case was about. Because I am sure that once people that are unfamiliar with his case start hearing about it, they're going to. Well, I want everyone to form your own opinion. So those of you who are new to this case or to my channel, I want you to form your own opinion. But I'm going to tell you what you're going to hear on this channel is my opinions, and my panel, my co-hosts, when they come on, our opinions and beliefs based on facts that we have researched and that we have taken part in as a team, many of us, to get the factual, truthful information out there. So that is the goal of this channel. So you're not going to hear very many comments from the panel that are an opposing view. I'm all trying to think of the right words to use here. I have a really hard time being politically correct. And the last several weeks with everything else I've been watching on other channels, there's been a lot of stuff going on with channels being struck and certain words you can't say and whatever and all that craziness. And I don't, I'm not a monetized channel. So I think that, as far as saying certain words that we're not allowed to say on some of these other big sub channels, I don't worry about it. I haven't been called out or, notified by YouTube yet. So, the year is young still. But what I have done in that case, because of the uproars that I've been seeing on some of these other big channels that are streaming content and showing content and sharing content of different topics, them getting strikes and stuff like that. I don't want to do that to myself. And I've already been shut down midstream once before when I wasn't even thinking about the what I was doing was, sharing streaming content that I didn't own. And I didn't get a strike for it, but I did get shut down in the middle of the stream for that. And that was when just don't say the F word. Oh, come on, nephew. That's going to be popping out of my mouth. I try not to do that, though, in case anybody in Daniel's family or, friends or anything happen to watch any of the street, any of these live podcasts. I don't want to offend them with my language. So I try to just keep it, as low key as possible. Well, when I get outraged about a topic or I get really passionate or upset about a topic that we might be, it's going to slip out. I'm just going to warn you, it's going to slip out. So I'll do my best. But what I did was, I wanted to give those of you who are new to the channel, new to my content, new to Daniel's case, I wanted to give you a very, very basic idea of what Daniel's case is about. So what I've done is I've taken a video, the very first video that I watched, and I'm pretty sure that the link for the entire video is in the description. But it was the very first thing that I watched about Daniel's case. And I was outraged. I was outraged. And so I had to start looking I had to start researching it. And I needed to know more about this case, because it's one thing to watch a video that somebody, creates or whatever, that's very one-sided, and say, yes, I'm on that bandwagon too. And this is, so I needed to find people who were also interested in finding the truth and the information about the case. And I'm hoping that Katie did it. I know she was in the chat, and I know she's got a lot going on, but I was kind of hoping that she might be able to drop in on us and help on the panel, because when I get flustered or lost with a topic that I'm trying to say, or a date or a name or a location, even if she doesn't know it either or remember it either, by the time we get, our brains together, we can usually come up with it. So it's really nice having her help on the panel too. And I've got a few others that are told me that they would jump on the panel as well. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share a video. That's what I do. Some content creators do slides, some just, show snippets of videos, some will just talk, but I do video. I create videos. I make little video clips or long videos or whatever. I express myself better that way. I let other people do. It's in the Avengers chat, okay? I think. I didn't put it in there. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's in the Avengers chat. Sorry, Kay. And Cherie, whoever else. Gosh, I thought I had it all worked out. Anyway, so once we all get get on the panel together and we all start, remembering certain things and whatnot, then, it definitely comes together. What I've done is I have done just a 30-minute or so-ish video that I've kind of put together. I've done a lot of cutting of this video, and the credit belongs to Michelle Malkin. It's her video that she did years ago. Hi, there's Katie did it. Hi, everybody say hi to Katie did it. Thank you so much. And to Cherie. I don't recall. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Kate and Cherie. Want to say hi to the kids? You're muted. I don't know if you know that or not, but anyway, I thought I gave everybody the link and I hadn't, so that's my fault. So we're going to do this 30-minute video, and I realized when I was working on it about halfway through-ish that I needed to make places to where I wanted to pause, so that I could explain a little further or add a comment in it or something like that. I didn't think about doing that till about halfway through, so I will just have to be vigilant and watch it and make sure I'm pausing where I want to comment. Or Kay and Cherie, you also can, shout out and let me know that you want to have me pause it for whatever reason. So without further ado, let me share this week's creative little video that I made. I will read this part for you guys. And this comes from Brian Bates' website that he made and set up specifically for Daniel's case. And that is the other place that I highly recommend. If you want to know the information about all the different accusers and things that went on, and not all of the accusers, because at some point he had to he had to kind of cut off what he was doing due to personal reasons and things, but doesn't matter. We can still get there. But it definitely gives you a great idea of how corrupt Oklahoma City and OCPD were in the case. So this comes from his website. This is his introduction on his website, which is holtzclawtrial.com. On June 18th, 2014, Oklahoma City police officer Daniel Holtzclaw pulled over a 57-year-old African-American grandmother. Later, the driver would claim that she was sexually assaulted by Holtzclaw during the traffic stop. An investigation was opened that subsequently led prosecutors to believe that they had uncovered a serial rapist with a badge, victimizing the most vulnerable in Northeast Oklahoma City. Holtzclaw, half white and half Japanese, was subsequently criminally charged with 36 counts stemming from the alleged sexual assaults of 13 African-American women at 17 alleged crime scenes. With no direct forensic evidence, no independent eyewitnesses, and mounds of reasonable doubt, Holtzclaw was convicted and sentenced to 263 years in an undisclosed prison. This is the story of Oklahoma versus Daniel Holtzclaw from the eyes of the prosecution with the scrutiny of the defense. And it's told all the podcasts are going to be told by Brian Bates, who is an Oklahoma private investigator and an original member of Daniel Holtzclaw's criminal defense team. Okay.
Now, five years after an Oklahoma City police officer is first accused of rape, all of the evidence attorneys had in the case is being released to the public.
Daniel Holtzclaw was convicted of sexual assault and sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. News 9's Dana Hurtnicki is live tonight with this latest development in the case. Dana?
Kelly, Daniel Holtzclaw still maintains his innocence. His case is currently making its way through the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. This, as a high-profile attorney, has now taken up his cause.
Bad policing and injustice.
Brian Bates was the private investigator for Daniel Holtzclaw's defense during his criminal trial.
When I very first met Daniel, and for many, many months into the investigation, I told him I thought he was guilty.
13 women accused Holtzclaw of assault. But it wasn't until Bates sifted through all the evidence that he started to believe the Oklahoma City police officer didn't do what he was accused of. And that's why now, 5 years to the day after the first victim reported the crime, he is starting to release all the discovery from the case to the public in a series of podcasts, beginning with that first accuser, Jamie Liggins. He's releasing information about the investigation and the corresponding evidence.
All of the 911 calls, all of the interviews that were recorded either visually or audio, all of that will be released, and the public has never seen these things before. Even if you attended the trial, much of what I'm going to post was actually never presented to the jury.
Holtzclaw's criminal appeal was filed in February 2016. 3.5 years later, the Court of Appeals has yet to rule. Meanwhile, Kathleen Zellner, the high-profile attorney featured in the Netflix documentary of Making a Murderer, is now representing Holtzclaw in his civil cases in federal court. Bates says he is no longer working for Holtzclaw or his family. He's just releasing the information to the court of public opinion.
If nothing else, the public will realize that this is not the case they've been told for 5 years that it was.
Well, the Oklahoma Attorney General's case is now prosecuting in the appeal, but they do not want to comment on this release of this evidence. Reporting live, Dana Hurtnicki, Oklahoma's own News
9. So I'm seeing that, gosh, I don't, well, I have YouTube open. Maybe I just need to close my YouTube altogether. Let me try that. I'll just close my YouTube and just watch it from StreamYard, and maybe that'll make a difference. I'm really sorry. I thought that was going to be like a one-time thing. Okay, am I still echoing? Hey, there's Jack. What's up, Jack?
What up? What up?
Oh, you know me, just trying to drive everybody crazy with my freaking echoing. God. So when I'm speaking, you're not hearing the echo, right?
I don't. You sound fine here.
Well, of course I do. It only echoes when I play. Okay, I've got YouTube closed, so hopefully that will make the difference, and you won't have to hear that echo. So I'll go ahead and continue, and I am sure you will let me know in the chat if I'm in the wrong place. In the chat, if you hear that nasty echo again, and if so, then I might have to restart my computer, I guess. Might be a new time for, I don't have like the Patreon and all those, money thingy, whatever, blah, blah, blahs, because I think that's kind of not so cool all the time, but but I might need a new computer. Just kidding. Just kidding. But let's see if this works a little bit better now. So I felt like there was something that I was going to, well, let's just see what this does. Hmm.
163 years. Chances are you've heard of convicted serial rapist Daniel Holtzclaw, the former Oklahoma City police officer. The case made national headlines. Cause celeb for Black Lives Matter in the social justice crowd as a symbol of, quote, 400 years of racial and sexual violence against Black women. Members of Black Lives Matter and similar groups cheered when he was sentenced to 263 years behind bars. But is the case really so black and white?
Oh, you still have the echo? Ugh.
Yeah, I could hear it. It's like it's playing from two different sources.
I don't know what it is. What if I mute my mic? Can you still hear it if I mute my mic?
Should be able to, yeah.
Let's try
But
that.
you're playing from a source and not you. Try it.
Well, it's just my recording that I made, my video that I made. No, I'm
Right,
not playing from the source, my own source that I made.
But muting your mic here shouldn't affect that at all.
Okay. All right, I'm really sorry, guys. If the echoing is too bad, then guess what? we'll just talk instead.
It's not so bad. I mean, honestly, Rhonda, it's not so bad. It's not tolerable. I mean, I can understand it. Irritating, but tolerable.
Yeah. Well, I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be obnoxious. Cherie has a suggestion. We'll see if this works, and if it doesn't, then I'll send it to you, Jack, and you can play it. Maybe that'll work better.
Sure. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
All right. Let me mute my mic and then play and see if that works. Okay.
Sure.
We're here in Oklahoma City asking the bombshell questions nobody else in the media dared to. What if he didn't do it? Did the DNA evidence really show what prosecutors accused Holtzclaw of doing? Why did the jury throw out half the charges? Why are accusers who describe the tall, dark-haired, half-Japanese cop as a, quote, short black man or blonde now part of high-dollar civil suits against him? Forget everything you thought you knew about this case, because it might not be true at all.
Welcome to Michelle Malkin Investigates, where we dig deeper, past the headlines and sound bites in pursuit of one narrative, the truth. This edition is the beginning of an ongoing series about an idealistic young man raised with small town values,
a strong Christian from a multiracial family of cops dedicated to law and order, who was shockingly railroaded by his own colleagues, by the media, and by the police-hating social justice mob. I have now been to Oklahoma 3 times and personally spent dozens of hours meeting the key players, hearing from Daniel Holtzclaw's family and friends, and poring over the evidence. After carefully interviewing the lead detectives, scrutinizing the accuser's convoluted stories, and after talking to Daniel directly, I can tell you this: justice was not served. Officer Daniel Holtzclaw was thrown into a lion's den, his reputation mauled, his freedom stripped. This, despite the prosecution's failure to produce a single witness or piece of direct forensic evidence tying Daniel to 17 alleged crime scenes involving 13 accusers and 36 crimes. Is he innocent? I want you to make your own fully informed conclusions, and so does Daniel.
I want the world to take notice of my case. I want the world to read in detail about my case, and I believe the judicial system failed me. And so I believe when the facts are finally presented, people can actually sit back and read and go into detail about my case. They understand what truly misjustice has occurred.
I'll also introduce you to Brian Bates, an unlikely ally and citizen watchdog on Daniel's defense team, who has worked tirelessly to debunk the tales of the accusers who helped put Daniel behind bars.
They lied on the stand. They lied to the jury. They're involved in civil lawsuits where they may collect millions. This is an injustice, and the public doesn't want to be bothered with it.
But this story isn't just about Daniel. It's a chilling warning for the rest of America, as you'll hear from Daniel's sister, Jenny.
I want everyone to be aware that this can happen to their loved ones. It can happen to their son. It can happen to their daughter. I mean, you never know what someone's going to be falsely accused of.
As Daniel's family marks the 1-year anniversary of his conviction, December 10, which is also his 30th birthday, his public defender is preparing a high-stakes appeal. In late September, Daniel filed for an extension, which included bombshell information. Limited DNA tests on Daniel's uniform found an accuser's skin cells. But what you probably didn't know is it also found DNA from an unknown male. An unknown male? That certainly doesn't fit his supposed victim profile. It's a pretty significant fact that was lost on police, Daniel's original defense team, and prosecutors. Not only that, but prosecutors claimed that the accuser's DNA came from vaginal fluid. But that contradicts their own DNA expert. And for all we know, it could have transferred from a simple handshake. We'll dive into all those details and more that the rest of the media has whitewashed. Daniel joined the Oklahoma City Police Department in 2011. In his 3 years on the force, he patrolled the meanest streets, chasing down the bad guys just like he would on the football field. And yes, he ruffled feathers. Daniel was investigated on 19 use of force incidents over that time, but cleared of every single one. He served a brief
Okay, so regarding the 19 excessive use of force claims, a lot of those, and I think Kay has a better idea of how many, but a lot of those were self-reported. Like I can't explain it. Kay's much better at explaining that, but it wasn't that he thought he did something wrong or forceful, but because it could be perceived that way, he self-reported a lot of those.
It's the definition of use of force. Most people, when you hear use of force, you think, he slammed someone into the ground, or, he used excessive force. Excessive force is defined as anything greater than placing on the handcuffs. So if someone isn't compliant and they're, not wanting to be put into the cuffs, like Demetria Campbell was someone that he had taken into investigative custody in the end of 2013. He had gotten called out to a stolen car. She matched the description of the person that they sent the police out looking for. So he takes her into investigative custody. Is that what, am I saying that right?
Yes.
For some reason right now it doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And you know, she was struggling. She was mad. She didn't end up being the person, but she wouldn't just come with him. He placed her in the cuffs. He had to use the brick wall. She weighed more than he did, even though she was shorter than him. But, you know, that was one use of force that he should have reported that he didn't. I feel like because he was reporting use of force as the policy and procedures said to, and I'm not sure that Oklahoma City police officers really did that. You know, when the depositions come out that were taken as a part of the civil trial, you'll see how little stock the detectives and supervisors put into policies and procedures. Kim Davis said something like, you know, you're making a much bigger deal out of policies and procedures. We don't, you know, if you think that I've ever read the policies and procedures, no, I haven't. So yes, he did have several use of force. Most of them were self-reported. Demetria Campbell wasn't. That became an issue after he you know, was accused of the Janie Liggins after hours traffic stop. And she decided to jump on board and say that he sexually assaulted her by, you know, having an erection when he was cuffing her and, you know, pushing his erection into her backside. She didn't report that initially. You know, it was more than half a year later when he was on the news that she decided to jump on the bandwagon. Oklahoma City settled with her for $25,000. So use of force is not what I thought it was.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Kay.
Thanks for that long explanation, Kay.
No, stop. That's why I ask you, because I know you know the right things, the right way to word it. It all is in my head, but it doesn't come out the way it's formed in my head. So you do much better at that than I do. Robsky says, it sounds like at least some of the victims, we call them accusers, but that's fine. I'm not judging. Described a very different person. Have any of the victims commented further? No, not really. Not that we're aware of. I mean, we've went through as many of their Facebook pages and Instagrams and, you know, all that stuff as we can find, just to see if there's any comments or anything that they're saying or anything that, you know, we can use as proof that they lied. And we haven't really found very much. There is one Facebook post years ago by one of the accusers, Kayla Lyles. Doesn't name Daniel at all, but the meme that she posts is definitely indicative of, you know, something regarding the case. But what I will do, and if I can remember, I will share a couple of videos of two of the accusers who have made a video that we used in press releases in the last few months of two of the accusers whose depositions. Well, they kind of dropped the ball on themselves, and I'll try to remember to play those at the end before we end, and you can see those, Robsky, because they're very interesting. And if not, then you can certainly I'll see if I can get one of the mods to link it, drop the links for Sherry Ellis and Tabitha Barnes in the chat, and you can check it out later at your own convenience. But anyway, let's go back to the, and that's a great question, Robsky. Other than that, though, we haven't really had any comments that I'm aware of by any of them. They're all in the middle of a civil trial or a civil suit right now, or a civil case right now with Daniel. And so they probably are being, you're fine, Robsky, I understand. Accusers, got it. My bad, new to this. No, you're fine. That that just leads into a whole other topic of victim versus accuser and blah blah blah, which we can talk about at another time. But I will just say that some of us feel like some of the ladies were victims, but not victims of the assaults that they accused Daniel of, and they're victims of the Oklahoma City police, the detectives and the court and the prosecutor and the judge and all that. But so in that sense, some of them were victims. So you're not completely off base with that. Okay, let me. Let's see. No name says, it feels like you are scratching a live nerve. This hurts seeing a good cop. Yeah, I mean, he was a good cop, for sure, and he was definitely screwed for sure. Okay, let me mute this and we'll.
Stint in the high-profile gang unit before being assigned to the Northeast.
Let me tell you a little bit about Northeast Oklahoma City. It's one of the toughest neighborhoods, rife with drugs, gangs, and prostitutes. This section of town lies directly in the shadow of the state capitol, and it's a place where a young man, sworn to protect and to serve, became a victim, a sacrificial lamb of the very system he had dedicated his life to.
The Northeast is a predominantly Black neighborhood and one of the poorest in the city.
Race relations in Oklahoma City is tense.
Oklahoma native and accusers advocate Grace Franklin echoes the Black Lives Matter movement's blanket criticism of law enforcement officers and paints a bleak picture of cops on the beat.
The police do not see us as individuals. They see us as statistics. They see us as assailants, suspects. That's a problem when you're policing a community.
But here's the other side of the story. Oklahoma City has been one of the most gang-infested cities in America, behind Chicago, Los Angeles, Detroit, and Camden. Violent Northeast street thugs and cartels on Daniel's beat flooded the neighborhood with drugs. Prostitution and human trafficking have also plagued the streets. At 27, Daniel was carving out a promising career in law enforcement. His mission was to serve and protect. He had a girlfriend who shared his love of physical fitness. He went to church and remained close to his family. Life was good.
Good night, baby.
But in the summer of 2014, a late-night traffic stop would change everything, and Daniel had no idea what was about to hit him.
While Daniel occupied himself with work, family, and friends, a powder keg of racial strife and anti-police fury was about to explode. Summer 2014 was the season of Ferguson, Missouri, where 18-year-old alleged thief Michael Brown was shot and killed by police officer Darren Wilson. The Black Lives Matter movement seized on the incident, and Hands Up, Don't Shoot was born. Riots erupted across the country filled with chants of blank the police. In this poisoned climate of social justice and scapegoating, fingers were about to point at an unsuspecting Daniel Holtzclaw, putting political pressure on the police chief and prosecutors to calm a racially charged mob.
Oklahoma City's skyline and population have grown dramatically over the past 20 years, and with it, the crime rate. Yet law enforcement numbers have barely budged. Instead, officers work 12-hour shifts and more solo patrols. On June 18th, 2014, Daniel was just finishing up one of those solo patrols, leaving the Spring Lake station at 2 a.m. He turned off his patrol car's computer and GPS, which was a policy violation. But for Daniel, it had become a daily bad habit for which he had never once been admonished or disciplined. Across town, a 57-year-old woman was also driving home in a red car with dark-tinted windows, even though her driver's license had been suspended 3 decades prior. She says between midnight and 2 a.m., she played games with friends, took a nap, and was driving home so her fiancé could get to work. Daniel pulled Janie Liggins over here after she swerved, just west of a busy intersection. Patrol cars in Oklahoma City don't have dash cams, and officers don't have body cams. But one nearby building had 32 and 24-hour security overlooking where the supposed sexual assault happened. Here's surveillance video from one of those cameras. Unfortunately, it's too dark and far away to confirm anything other than what we already know. He pulled her over, and several cars drove by. In the 15-minute stop, Daniel says he found a bottle of hydrocodone in her purse, but let her go home without calling it in. Liggins made a U-turn, the opposite direction from where she was initially heading. So what exactly happened between Officer Holtzclaw and Janie Liggins? Liggins' story would become a national narrative, a symbol of racism and police abuse.
I was out there alone and helpless to know what to do. And in my mind, all I could think that he was going to shoot me. He was going to kill me.
Her story would kick off a police investigation turned fishing expedition that dredged up more than a dozen accusers.
After I talked to Janie, I was like, something happened to Janie.
Now retired, Detective Kim Davis was with the Oklahoma City Police Department for nearly 3 decades. She says she had a gut feeling about what would become the biggest case of her career.
She said, if you picture it, he's got his penis in her mouth and his gun's right there. All she can see is his gun. And she asked him, are you going to kill me?
Liggins says Daniel ordered her to put her hands on his car, pat searched her, ordered her to lift up her shirt, and demanded she pull down her pants, claiming he forced her to perform oral sex on him for about 10 seconds.
What was different about her?
Her demeanor, hysterical at times, bawling at times. She had no motive at all to make this up.
According to the court record, Liggins admitted to
Okay. So great question, Robsky. Robsky says, as a Brit, I'm not familiar with the presenter. Is she well-known national TV personality or more local? Just trying to gauge the reach of this program. Michelle Malkin, she's a journalist. I don't even know what year it was that she became involved in Daniel's case, or I don't even recall how she came involved in it. But she worked at the time of this broadcast that she did. She was working for CCTV, or was it CCTV, I think, which is a what's it called, a cable news court kind of program thing that she was involved in. And as far as well-known, I would say she's well-known here in the States. And I will tell you that with Michelle Malkin, you either love her or you don't like her at all. It's pretty much cut and dry. I think that, from what I've seen on Twitter and things like that. But she did a great job in representing Daniel in this case. And regardless of, anything else, she did this case justice. She's done justice for Daniel in this presentation that she did. Kay, do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, politically, I don't agree with her. But if I put politics aside and just look at what she did with this case, she's spot on with this case, with Daniel's, the facts of this case. I didn't know her when she became involved with the case.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about her until I watched, the Daniel in the Den. So, but yeah. Welcome to El Sancho. Nice to have you here. Thank you for coming and for supporting us. So, sorry, back Robsky. Yeah. And what Kay said, her politics, you're either going to love her or hate her. But like I said, she did do a great job in representing. Thanks, El Sancho. I appreciate that so much. She did do a great job in bringing awareness to Daniel's case. So, I'm grateful for that, regardless of, anything else. She did that, and that's a pretty big deal to Daniel. And she still has regular contact with Daniel. Still, they're good friends. They speak, I think, or she visits regularly. I don't really know the details, but she does still have a really good relationship with Daniel. So that's all that matters. He's being supported by her, and any support that we can get for Daniel is good support, hopefully. So we'll go ahead and get back. Where this ended, they're talking about Janie Liggins. This is part of her trial testimony where she says that she had took 2 p.m. aspirins, but that was basically it. So we'll go ahead and pick it up from there.
Taking a sleep-inducing pain pill and initially denied smoking marijuana, but then said she, quote, hit it once. But she also told Davis she had actually smoked 2 marijuana joints. She later denied that too. Davis interviewed Liggins at the hospital and said she was incredibly upset. We would show you the interview, but neither video nor audio exist.
We don't record victim interviews except involving police officers. We never have recorded victim interviews.
Okay, but this one involved a police
It did, but I had no recording. I had no equipment to record it, and it didn't even cross my mind to record it. We're in the middle of the hospital, and it's not something we do. We don't take a recorder to the hospital and do interviews.
They don't even have recorders. I mean, the department doesn't supply them, according to these detectives, with tools of their trade, which, it's a problem, but Oklahoma City Police Department has a long history. Oklahoma County, period, has a long history of corruption and shadiness. So, of course, they don't want to record initial interviews. They don't record interviews that are, like we'll get into the Terry Morris. She is a key person in making this case just go forward. When she changed her story after sticking to it for 3 interviews, they didn't record the part where she changed her story, and it's outrageous what Rocky Gregory says happened during that part that wasn't recorded.
Yeah, it's this is a really big bone of contention for sure. Just one of many where she makes this claim that she didn't have anything to record with. What I've said from the time I very first heard her make that ridiculous claim is, you are a sex crimes detective. You know that you are on call on this particular weekend. Therefore, it makes sense to me that you would have some sort, and I know there had to be some sort of mobile recording device that they could have taken. And I know for a fact they did, because Rocky Gregory used one on several of the little things that he did, the recordings that he did. And he wasn't in an office, and he wasn't in a interrogation room. He was sitting on the front porch of at least 1 or 2 of them and able to record them there. So I'm calling bullshit on that. We don't have record. You're a sex crimes detective. You should have that stuff available, especially when you're on call, so that you can be ready when you go to that call.
It really is absurd. We all have professions. I was a massage therapist for 20 years. I wouldn't show up to a massage without massage cream. I mean,
right.
It's just, you're a detective and you're going to interview people. You don't show up without a recording device. And shame on Oklahoma City for not providing the tools that their employees need, like body cams. If there were body cams, this Daniel would not be in prison right now. They would have never been able to manufacture this case had they had the proper tools to protect their employees and to protect accused people as well.
Right. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And, one of the, we know how horrible the media is, or some of us believe that the media is horrible. It's really frustrating because there's, I can't even remember which one it was. I think it was 2020, did a 3 or 4 part series called What the Dash Cam Never Saw, talking about Daniel's case. And it pisses me off because there were no dash cams. And so that title of that show that they did on Daniel's case, it's all about Daniel's case, implies that there were nefarious, dirty little things that were going on that Daniel was doing. That the dash.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Rhonda. Are you saying the media would mislead us and try to manipulate the story? No.
Absolutely, as much as possible, because yeah.
The more sensational, the better. It's just business.
Well, and for anybody who happened to watch, if you had a life and you didn't watch the Depp Heard trial, good for you. But we know what the media, we watched that trial. Some of us watched that trial from start to finish every single day in court. And we know what was said and what was testified to and so on. But when you got done with the trial that day and you went to the evening news or the news the next day, it was like, wait a minute, what the mainstream media was reporting.
What did you what? What the hell did you just go to? Because that's not what we saw. They got caught.
Exactly. It was just crazy.
And called out.
Yeah,
rightfully so too.
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
All that drama going on with the law tubers and stuff. But yeah.
Sancho, that is absolutely correct. Because of Daniel's case, there are body cams, although it took him a long time to get him up and running because, there's always the big struggle between Oklahoma City Police Department and the FOP, wanting to hash out the rules of, when can we turn them off and, just working out all the details, which seemed like it took forever.
Yeah.
Almost to a point where the body cams were obsolete because now they have different body cams.
Yeah. Now it's time for an upgrade and they're
they were just getting started with them.
Yeah.
Had them sitting on the shelf for years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Doing nothing. Yeah. So, Robsky, yes, body cams are no brainer these days. The cost is insignificant compared to the protection provided to all parties. Absolutely. I completely agree. It just shouldn't be a cost thing. Oh, well, we can't afford it. That's very important to have for these kinds of purposes. Exactly. And El Sancho says body cams would have showed how honest Daniel was with his paperwork and how dishonest others were fabricating incidents, slandering citizens. Yes, absolutely.
Not to go down a rabbit hole, which I'm real famous for, but there's all this controversy about releasing body cam footage. I've always thought that body cam footage should all be somewhere where it can be viewed live in real time. If you want to watch an officer work, if you want to log on and see what Oklahoma City police are doing, I think it should be in real time available to the public.
I do too.
But maybe there are things that I'm not thinking of that make that a bad idea, but I'm not thinking of anything.
I can't think of anything that makes that a bad idea, but I'm sure it would all come down to money and protecting the corrupt, for sure.
Well, right now, Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Council are talking about, this is a lot of data to store. It costs so much to store this data. How are we, look at all these officers we have and how many hours a day, and that's just a lot. And how long do you keep it? And they just need to find a budget for that because it's really important.
Right. I agree. Okay, let's.
You don't use your phones for interviews?
No. I wouldn't even know how to record on my phone if I did.
You wouldn't?
No. I have no idea.
You don't carry work phones with you that you
We're
could
not
use
provided with work phones.
Still, she and fellow sex crimes detective Rocky Gregory managed to tape 9 additional accusers.
If you don't know, you don't know. And tell me, I don't remember. It's okay not to remember.
But Liggins, the linchpin for the entire case, never gave a recorded statement. Liggins did, however, take something called a SANE test with a sexual assault nurse examiner.
What were the results of the SANE test with regard to Jamie Liggins?
There was no DNA in her mouth, but she said that he did not ejaculate.
She also said at one point her hands were on the hood?
On the hood, yes.
And what were the results?
Did you have a comment, Jack?
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about this case as an overall. Jamie Liggins is the linchpin to the entire. She's the one that started it. If she didn't give a recorded statement, are you kidding me? That's kind of like that series that we just streamed. Most of us had seen it, but BW Haggis hadn't seen it. Outcry. And this officer, this young Greg Kelly, the football player that gets accused of sexually assaulting this kid, they never do a lineup. They never show this kid the first photo. How can that happen? It's like, what? And Liggins doesn't give a recorded statement. How does that work?
Not a recorded. Well, because Kim Davis didn't have anything to record her with in the hospital.
Sure. Okay.
Jack, come on. It was the middle of the night.
Yeah, and it was the middle of the night, and Kim Davis was sleeping, and
recording devices don't work that late or something.
Right.
Just that's mind blowing to me.
Does anyone see any handprints on the hood of that car?
Nope.
Yeah. Any handprints? Any fingerprints? Yeah, nothing. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and go back.
They didn't get fingerprints.
Well, why do you think that is?
Because hundreds of people touched the cars, the weather, the you got to keep in mind, Holtzclaw's car was a pigsty. It was absolutely nasty. And a lot of times, like when we go into a house for a burglary and it's just nasty, you never get results from that.
Yes, Daniel's car had trash inside, but we're talking about the outside. Police tested his vehicle all over for DNA and prints.
The fingerprint tests came back negative on the car, and the SANE test came back negative for DNA in her mouth.
Correct.
You still believed her story at that point?
I did.
No forensic evidence supported Liggins' account, and her stories kept changing, casting increasing doubt on her reliability and credibility. First, she describes Daniel as 35 to 45 years old. He's 27. She claims he's 5'7" to 5'9", 225 pounds with a thick build. He's actually 6'2", very muscular. She says his skin isn't smooth, but Daniel has clear skin. And here's the kicker. In her eyes, he's blonde. Nope, dark hair. Liggins said she pulled into a parking lot after Daniel let her go before turning around. That's not what the video showed. She testified that Daniel unzipped his pants in an instant and pulled out his penis through the fly of his pants. But Daniel wears tight compression underwear without an opening at the crotch. His bulletproof vest hung below his groin, and his uniform shirt was secured to his socks to keep it taut. The scenario Liggins described is highly unlikely, to put it mildly. Nevertheless, Davis and her partner, Rocky Gregory, were certain when they began a 2-hour interrogation with Daniel that he was guilty.
We've both investigated officers in the past, but so it's a different dynamic. They kind of know a lot of the tricks of the trade that we do. They've watched plenty of our interviews when they bring other suspects down that they've arrested.
But before you started the interview, did you have a sense that he did the things that Janie Liggins accused him of doing?
Before we started the interview, I felt like that what Janie told me was the truth. Yes.
See,
Daniel didn't ask for a lawyer. He allowed investigators to collect his DNA and conduct.
Isn't it supposed to be innocent until proven guilty? And she just completely ignored that right there. And as a police officer, you know, I get you want to believe someone, a male or female, that says they're a victim of whatever, some kind of assault. But you have that bias. She's so clear right there. Boom. I believed her. That means I'm not going to believe anything Daniel tells me. And I'm going to work towards making what she said true. And that's what she did.
That's exactly what she did.
And this is all going to become a problem for them, because nothing that she's saying is matching up. You know, no handprints on the car where she said she put her hands, none where she said he put his hands. Her DNA is not in his mouth. And so what's going to happen? You know, I just wonder what they're thinking, because they're acutely aware of the racial tension in the community and around the United States.
That's right.
At that time. So they have nothing where they could proceed with charges against him based on her. So they're going to have to figure something else out.
I agree.
Okay.
Any search they wanted. And speaking of searches, he told a far different tale than Liggins.
Did your hands go on her?
I backhanded her on as far as the side.
Where on her body? Tell me. You backhanded
Her waist, and the back portion. I didn't touch her butt or anything, but the back portion of the waist. And then she lifted it up like right here. And there's nothing.
Did she lift it up like this?
No.
Okay. So she never went, whoo, nothing, exposed her breasts or anything like that.
She asked me if I was like, no, it's okay.
She asked you
if you want to search me. I'm like, no, it's okay.
So she never put her hands on the car and you.
No.
Okay.
Over the course of a 2-hour interview conducted roughly 12 hours after the traffic stop, Daniel is clear, calm, and answers the questions directly, never getting rattled, even when the detectives mention they have video.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm talking away, but I was muted. El Sancho says, if we break down the empire of fuckery, you see how bad this police department has always been. Yeah, we agree completely. The department, the entire county, honestly, Oklahoma County in general is corrupt from way back in the 60s and 70s, and dare I say again, the Bob Macy days, for sure. What happened before Bob Macy, I'm not as familiar with, but certainly by the time Bob Macy was finished with his legacy in the DA's office anyway. But that doesn't just happen in the office. Oh,
I refer to him to bloodthirsty Bob.
Yeah, bloodthirsty Bob. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, when you've got a DA's office who's like Jack says, bloodthirsty, it stands to reason to me, possibly that for sure you're going to have other departments working alongside with you, i.e., the police departments that are going to work for you that way. Maybe that's the wrong way for me to approach that or look at it, but that's how I feel for sure in this case.
Well, it seems like it's so ingrained in not only, the DA's office, but in the police department. And another thing, I haven't looked at this case nearly as much as you guys have, but something in the underlying, what you talked about, Kay talked about, something in the underlying that's been unsaid, no documentation, of course, is that we're going to make an example of this guy because this racial stuff, we need to quell that. So we're going to have a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you there's a paper trail somewhere. I bet you there is. We'll never see it, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Amen.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I agree for sure. I agree with the amen, and I agree with Jack. But and as much searching and digging as we've done, it hasn't really been much of a paper trail that we've been able to uncover.
No.
Necessarily, but
we can see it though. Their actions dictate that.
Yeah,
that's what I look at.
And we can also have the inconsistencies that we have been able to uncover. And so at some point,
I don't know their name, but 2 or 3 of them described. Well, one of them especially described Daniel as a short black guy, and he was darker than she was, and she was pretty dark.
Well, she said he was darker than her.
Yeah, that's right. Because Kim Davis as well, she talked about skin tone and on that kind of stuff, and she just continued to proceed forward anyway. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right over it.
Yeah, just ignored it.
She didn't even hear it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and that came back to bite Sherry Ellis in the butt when she gave her deposition, and if I get a chance, I'll play that
Good.
video if I get the chance here in the end. Yes, El Sancho, Ferguson failed. Oklahoma City was a success for them, and before in this video, there's only about 10 or 12 minutes left of it, but Grace Franklin, who was the Oklahoma organizer of Black Lives Matter, or the Black Lives Matter organizer for Oklahoma City, it should piss you off what you will hear her say coming up here in just a couple minutes regarding rioting and things like that, because in another video in the interview with and I meant to put that in the description and I completely forgot, but there's they do an hour-long or 2-hour-long interview where they show the entire interview between Michelle Malkin and the 2 detectives. And in that interview, I completely forgot where I was going. Anyway, Michelle Malkin asks the detectives, was there any kind of racial tension going on in Oklahoma, or was there anything going on that might have looked like racial, like rioting and stuff like that? And they're like, oh no. In this video, in this 2-hour-long video, if you get a chance to watch that, they say no, there was no tension. There was, and as somebody who lived there at the time, not me, but somebody else on my panel who lived there at the time, and others who have told me who lived there at the time, there absolutely was tension. And it goes right to what El Sancho is saying, that there was tension, and that is a huge part of why I believe Daniel ended up where he ended up. So we'll carry on with this. And
on the video, are we going to see her boobies?
You should see her boobs. I didn't see her boobs.
Okay. Are we going to see her pull her pants down?
I didn't see her pull her pants down.
Okay. Are we going to see your penis out?
Nope.
Are we going to see your penis go in her mouth?
No.
Are we going to get any DNA to that?
No.
The video the detectives mention is the dark, far-off surveillance footage we showed you. Remember, all it confirmed was that a traffic stop took place. But Detective Gregory suggested otherwise to Daniel.
And we can watch a whole lot of actions being performed while you were there. And is there any reason at all, why your penis would be out?
No.
Detective Gregory continued to press him.
These videos ain't helping.
But Daniel did not waver, and when asked about DNA, he welcomed testing.
Are we going to get something from the same exam?
Go with the same exam.
Do you understand that you don't have to full-blown ejaculate to get something out of the same exam?
Right.
We can get skin cells. We can get pre-ejaculate. We can do all that and still get DNA.
Right.
And did your penis go in her mouth?
No, it did not.
As you know, the SANE exam results came up empty, supporting Daniel's story, not Janie Liggins. After watching the entire 2-hour interrogation, I can tell you it sure seems to me that Daniel had no idea what he was accused of doing. He told detectives he wanted every test to be conducted to show he had nothing to hide.
Now I'm just feeling, oh my God, blessed. I want DNA, I want everything, I want to get it done.
Based on a single 2-hour interview, the detectives diagnosed Daniel as a monster.
What are some of the adjectives that you'd use to describe Daniel Holtzclaw?
Narcissist.
Psychopath.
Evil.
But Sister Jenny tells me Daniel's always direct and unflappable. And when the investigators went on a hunt for anyone in Daniel's past who would confirm their dark diagnosis, they came up empty.
There's just a wildly divergent interpretation of how he acted and how he responded to the questions.
That's Daniel. I mean, that's Daniel being straightforward with her. You know, Daniel had nothing to hide.
So what do you think of people who look at the video and say, oh, that's the behavior of a sociopath?
It's very frustrating whenever I hear people say that, because I haven't heard one actual clinical person say that that's what Daniel's interrogation video proved to them.
Given that the detectives believe they were dealing with a psychopath, their failure to conduct basic searches and seizures is curious, to say the least.
Was there a reason why you didn't take his cell phone?
His cell phone?
Yes.
I didn't see.
There was no reason to do that.
No. What? Take it for what?
To look at who he called or what messages were on there, and
Even just looking at Janie is because we only had Janie interviewed full blown when we did this interview. There was never any allegation or any comment that he got her number, that he called her, that she called him. There was nothing to analyze his phone for.
So you didn't take his phone. What about his underwear?
Didn't take them.
Why not?
Daniel said that he had washed the underwear. He still had on the pants he had on the night previously.
And so you believed him you believed that?
Yeah.
But you already had a sense that he did what Janie Liggins said that he did.
I did.
But you believed him that he had washed his underwear.
I guess believe and hope. Most people change underwear, usually. But he had told us this is the same uniform. So we took the uniform.
What about the other uniforms that were in his home? Did you think you should have taken those?
No, because we didn't have other victims at that point.
Yet Davis told me she had another case on her mind when she interviewed Liggins.
And in the back of my head, I knew that Rocky was working another assault involving a police officer, but I didn't.
Okay, this is huge. When she says, in the back of my mind, now she's talking about when she is interviewing Janie Liggins on June 18th, the very beginning of this shit show. That night, she says that she interviewed her that night, and later when damn it, I keep losing my train of thought.
She interviewed him that night, and or that afternoon when he came in for his shift, when he came in for lineup in the afternoon, they were at his briefing station,
right?
And they asked if anyone made a traffic stop at 50th and Lincoln. And he said, I did, but I didn't call it in. So they pull him out, they photograph him, they take him down to headquarters, and they do this 2-hour interview. And so she's already got Rocky Gregory in the interview with her because Terry Morris, this other case that she says she had in the back of her mind, they're already deciding that he's going to be a serial rapist, is how it seems to me.
Yes, exactly. Yes, because later in some of our diggings and listening to some of the depositions and trial transcripts and whatnot, they will claim, Davis and Gregory will claim that they did not even consider putting the two cases together as connected, the Terry Morris and the Janie Liggins cases. But right there in that interview that Davis is doing with Malcolm right there, she says, oh yes, I knew Rocky was working on a case that involved a police officer, yet in other places, in depositions and different swearings that they do, they will claim that there was no, that all happened organically. We weren't preconceiving anything when we were interrogating Daniel in that 2 hours. And it's just BS, because when you go back and you can watch the entire interrogation video if you can stomach it. I don't know if maybe Cherie or one of the mods can put that link to that in the chat, the interrogation video, but it's they clearly, Rocky Gregory clearly asks Daniel if he knows the name Terry Morris and does he remember pulling her over. And this is on June 18th, and he doesn't, the whole Terry Morris thing was, just a couple of weeks earlier, or a few weeks earlier. And I know that for those May 8th, yeah. Well, in Rocky's version, yes.
Oh, Rocky's version. Okay.
Yeah. Rocky's version was May 8th. And I know that this might sound like I'm kind of just leaving a lot out, and I really kind of am, because it's really almost impossible to tell this whole thing because it's so twisted and convoluted. But when you go back and watch Rocky Gregory's interview of Terry Morris, and again, you can watch that through Bates Investigates or Holtzclawtrial.com YouTube. You can watch the whole thing, and there's really a very small amount of time of when Terry Morris makes her accusation to when Janie Liggins is pulled over. So between the accusation by Terry Morris, which was May 24th,
I think.
yeah, I think it was May 24th. And then the Liggins traffic stop, late night traffic stop, was June 18th. We're talking about 3 weeks or so. But Rocky Gregory and Kim Davis, they already have it in their minds that they're going to somehow connect the two cases, the two incidents. And you will see through the Terry Morris, and I have I think I have like 2 or 3 videos that I've done on the Terry Morris accusation. It's really, really, really horrible. So if you want to get a better idea between Terry Morris and Janie Liggins, what's going on, you can find those videos and watch those videos for Terry Morris, and you get a better idea of how it all kind of twisted and everything.
Throughout go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Throughout the course of investigating this case, you come across different pieces of information where there's a time when Rocky Gregory says that it was his partner, Rob High, who actually mentioned it to him and said, hey, what about that Terry Morris that said she was raped by an Oklahoma City police officer? Although, she said it was in an area where Daniel hadn't been. It was also, she also at the scene when they were interviewing her pointed to the older version police car and said that that was the kind of car that the police officer was driving who assaulted her. So already it wasn't adding up that could be Daniel Holtzclaw. And I think they had pretty much already discarded that, because although he had contact with her on May 8th, it was in a completely different area. So they do eventually use his GPS, ABL of his car to reverse engineer a case against him with Terry Morris after interviewing her. What was it, Rhonda? 3 times?
3, yeah.
She was interviewed before, and she had already signed a decline to prosecute form. So that should have been it. She did not want to be a part of this case. She did not want her case investigated.
Right.
But then mysteriously, she ends up getting arrested for trespassing. And then that's when she changes her story in the jail. They don't record the part where she changes her story. When you listen to Brian Bates, his podcast, Bates Investigates, when you listen to her, I think there are 2 episodes dedicated to her. He plays in the first one the entire her interviews, because her initial interview was recorded. Her interview was recorded when they hunted her down again and tossed her in the back of a police cruiser while Gregory came to the scene with a photo lineup to show her. And she walks away from that saying, basically, this is effed up what you guys are doing to me. This is effed up, man. Walking away. And then she gets arrested. And lo and behold, she changes her story to exactly where Daniel had an interaction with her on May 8th.
A legitimate stop.
Yeah, it's just, that's how they had all of these women become a part of the case, is by looking at his AVL and seeing where there was a window of time that he had interacted with a Black woman who had a history of prostitution or drugs or just crime in general. Those are the only women that they actually went out and interviewed to ask him if they had been assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. So it's just real interesting to hear her change her story to exactly what where Rocky Gregory had suggested. You sure it wasn't over there by Liberty? Which
Yeah.
is nowhere near City Rescue Mission. I believe she probably was assaulted near City Rescue Mission. She never came off of that story.
No.
What they did to her was the most disturbing thing I've seen. She's a mentally ill person, and they did her dirty, man.
Yeah, he brutalized her. It was horrible. It was horrible. So Robsky says, I did not see what they saw in that interview. Where on earth did they get psychopath, etc. from? If anything, those two detectives come across as dodgy. Yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely. And like I said, I'll put the link to the interrogation video in the description after I'm done with this stream. But it's what little bit you see of the interrogation in what I'm playing here is nothing compared to what you're going to see in that interrogation video, because it's horrible, horrible, horrible. So I'll put the and you know, Robsky, you call it dodgy. I call, especially where Kim Davis is concerned, the female, is disgusting and creepy and, you know, every way you can think of messed up. I realize that, you know, when police are doing interrogations and things like that, they have to use certain language and they have to, you know, play along to be the kind of, you know, like the buddy, or, you know, yeah, we're on your side. You know, I get that. I completely know how interrogation works. I know all about the Reed technique. I get it. I understand. But what Kim Davis does and Rocky Gregory goes beyond that. So
some of the things that she says and some of the other audio that we've heard is unacceptable.
Yeah,
it's completely unacceptable. It's because she's talking about, well, I'm not going to say the word, but working with yourself, you know, giving yourself a joyride, and you know, to me, it's completely inappropriate. And she's got this, not always, but almost always, she's got this underlying tone around Daniel that she's interested. Yeah. I get that from her. I get that vibe because she's constantly talking about his stuff. Yeah. It's revolting to me. It's completely inappropriate. Yeah, in this kind of a serious investigation, they're not playing around. They're not kidding.
Yeah.
This is his life. This is his life completely. And she wants to come off a lot of times as this, you know, fellow cop that, you know, is a female, and
I'm one of the guys.
Yeah, you know, it's just, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, but yeah, I'll put that in the description, and then you guys can, if you haven't seen it already, Robsky, I know you haven't, then you can take a listen when you get some time. Okay, we've only got not very much longer left of this, because I'm going to cut you off on the end and leave you in suspended animation. So here we go with almost the end of it.
Know the details of it.
Okay, so when you got to the hospital, you had that case in mind.
I knew he was working one involving a police officer. I didn't have any details. I just knew he was working one.
So which is it? Was there another victim in mind or not?
Well, I had a victim, Terry Morris, and her description of her assailant matched up what Jenny Liggins, her description of her assailant was, and everything that transpired during both their assaults kind of matched each other.
Detective Rocky Gregory has been with the Oklahoma City Police Department since 2000 and spent much of his career in sex crimes. He interviewed Morris in May 2014 after a domestic incident with her boyfriend.
I'd spent like 2 weeks trying to find her. By the time I was able to locate her, she again was high, and then she refused to cooperate. She said she was moving to California, didn't want to do anything. I sensed that there was something that did happen, but she wouldn't look at a photo lineup. She actually told me a wrong location to kind of throw me off a little bit.
But why would she do that?
Well, she explained later on when she got sober, the reason Why? Is because she knew he was going to dig into it, and she didn't want the boyfriend to know that she fell off the wagon. And the location where her assault occurred was actually at where she usually buys dope from.
I keep forgetting I'm muted. We kind of already talked about all that. Let's see. We're going to address that question right now. Rocky kind of twisted, every single bit of what the Terry Morris event was, because it was not, like Kay said, it wasn't just one interview. It was ultimately 3 interviews, and a lot of brutality. So Rock Knight says, does it bother anyone that Daniel didn't report traffic stops? I don't know what you're referring to necessarily, but there was only one stop that he didn't call in, and that was the night that he was on his way home from work, and he pulled Janie Liggins over, found nothing wrong. She wasn't DUI. She wasn't, other than her 30-year suspended driver's license, there was no reason to make a report or call it in. That's the only stop that I know of that Daniel did not report. And he certainly didn't tamper with his GPS unit. He doesn't have the they don't have, not just he, they don't have the ability to tamper with it at all. But who does have the ability to tamper with the results of that are in the OCPD headquarters. That's where the ability to tamper with GPS information can be found. I hope that kind of answers those questions for you, Rock Knight. And if you have any other questions or concerns, we would be happy to address them with you. And welcome, by the way. Your name's not familiar, so welcome to my channel. And we welcome questions. If there's something you don't understand or something you disagree with or something, absolutely we will, take that on and address it with you the best we can for everybody, anybody. So that's the only one, Rock Knight. I just said that. That's the only one that he didn't report, that he didn't call in, was the Janie Liggins stop. The only one. So, yeah. Okay. We'll get back on this little video.
Actually, the location was just a few blocks from her mother's home in a neighborhood Morris frequently visited.
So she lied to cover something up that she didn't want her boyfriend to know.
That's right.
So she changed her story.
She did change her story.
More than once.
In this interrogation, Morris seemed disoriented and unwilling to talk.
I can't have this guy running around Oklahoma City.
But if somebody else can do it, I don't want to. I just want to leave it alone.
Morris, a convicted felon with a history of drugs and prostitution, claimed Daniel stopped his patrol car and forced her to perform oral sex on him. But the GPS in his car disproved her initial statement. It showed a stop by apartments in the Northeast, not downtown. She could not positively ID Daniel in a photo lineup and said her attacker was dark-skinned and driving an older model patrol car, when in fact Daniel's car was a new one. Yet still, police believed her.
The only reason she gave a different location, again, was because she had the domestic with her boyfriend and other officers were there. He was going to know she was on crack again.
She was trying to cover up her drug use.
That's exactly it.
That explanation makes little sense, because Morris's ex-boyfriend initially called police to report she was intoxicated and destroying his vehicle. Nevertheless, the detectives believed a drug abuser over one of their own and started building their case, creating a victim profile. From thousands of Daniel's interactions with Oklahoma City residents, detectives cherry-picked Black females with a history of drugs or prostitution. It's no surprise that the publicity led to a circus parade of women and even a man coming forward with outlandish claims against him.
From what I understand, there were an additional 7 whose allegations didn't hold any water with you all.
There was a couple during, and then some came like during the trial and after the trial.
After it hit the media, we really had to be kind of protective as far as just absolutely even just believing anything. We had to really kind of dissect because now it was out there. Some people thought of money or just wanted attention or however. I interviewed one male.
One male who said that Daniel
Holtzclaw.
And what was the outcome of that?
He admitted he lied.
Yeah. So there are plenty of reasons to lie, including
Get out of trouble.
and money, as you said, was a big factor for people. I mean, they wanted to cash in.
After they saw it on the TV, they were like, "Ooh, I can get in on this."
And this kind of case and these kind of allegations are sort of a magnet for people who are looking to cash in.
Right.
Yes.
Detective Davis insisted that accusers like Janie Liggins and Terry Morris had no motive to make false charges against Daniel. Yet she admitted such lies are routine and says OCPD gets a complaint monthly against an officer that usually amounts to nothing because accusers just want to retaliate against cops. And quite simply, as Detective Davis herself admitted to me,
people lie.
Perhaps most troubling is how the detectives cajoled accusers into signing on as victims, even after refusing to say that Daniel did anything wrong. As we'll show you in our next edition, others also changed their story. But a police investigation took an even greater turn for the worse when detectives got their DNA moment. Is it what prosecutors and the media have portrayed? For the whole truth, be sure to watch the next edition of Michelle Malkin Investigates.
People lie.
We know Liggins changed her story several times. Did Daniel?
What changed in the 2 hours that Daniel Holtzclaw gave his interrogation about his side of the story versus all of the evolutions that happened in Janie Liggins?
Oh, nothing changed. He admitted to pulling her over. He admitted to putting her in the back. He admitted to everything that Janie said except the sexual assault.
There's no forensic evidence to back up what she said.
Correct.
And you still believe her, not him.
I do.
I assume it's because of all the other women that became a part of this case.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. When you have one victim, I believed her, but we don't always get things done when you have one victim. But when you have 13 and the MO's the same and the verbiage is the same, it just becomes a little bit more believable.
Okay, so how do you like them apples? When you have one victim, you don't really get much done, especially if there isn't any DNA or any evidence to back up what she's claiming. But when you get 13, by God, then you can get some shit done on your case that you're creating. Absolutely. Yes, Robsky, it would be very interesting to see what body language specialists say about those two detectives. Definitely something is off. You're gonna when you watch the 2-hour one that we'll post, that we'll put the link to in the description. You're gonna really possibly be disturbed at the behavior of both of these detectives through this 2-hour long video that they do.
Absolutely, you'll be disturbed. I can attest to that.
Yeah, it's talk about, and I don't know how much. I mean, I find the body language guy, the behavior panelists, or not the behavior panel, because they've really pissed me off. But the behavior, those two that we got to know during the trial, the Depp Heard trial. I really enjoy watching them. They're very entertaining, and I think that some of their some of the things that they say make sense to me logically, but I don't think it can be applied wholeheartedly in every case all the time with every individual. That being said, like Robsky said, there is something off, especially with Detective Davis. And I did approach. I have sent many emails and tweets and all sorts of and the links to the 2-hour-long video to the behavior panel, and they have completely like brushed me off and ignored me. And then just about a month or so ago, they did a horrible analysis of Daniel based on the interrogation video, which is completely goes against how they claim that they like to begin their analysis. They didn't have any of the stepping stones to start with Daniel before they even started it, and it was bad. It was really bad. I was sick for several days. I was so disturbed and so sick for several days after that. But yeah, I would like to see somebody like behavioral arts or the body language guy, Jesus, just take a look at it and just, give me an idea of what they think. I'll tell them both. I subscribe to your damn channel now. Analyze these two dickholes. But anyway, just because they just don't appear to be authentic in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I cut you off right there at the end, but there is another entire half of the Michelle Malkin interview, and I did leave you kind of, I'm going to, Robsky, you betcha. I am. It can't hurt. I mean, all it can do is, be a repeat of what the behavioral panel did and piss me off, but you know what? It's fine. I don't think the behavioral panel hasn't even given it the time of day to look at the interview. And if I can get one of the other guys to at least look at that 2-hour interview, that would be ahead of where I got with behavioral panel. But yeah, I left you there kind of hanging at the end of that, in the middle of that on purpose, because first of all, it's impossible to try to tell this whole thing in even 2 or 3 videos, honestly, which is why it's taking me so long to get videos, content created, because I've been trying to go through each one of the accusers and their story and their timeline to, share with my viewers, the inconsistencies and things like that. And so, it's been really difficult. And I got stuck last year on Tabitha Barnes, which is one of the most horrible, twisted cases, storylines, I guess, whatever you want to call it. What I'll do is Tabitha Barnes. So Daniel came up for probation on one of the charges that he was found guilty of in Tabitha Barnes's deposition. Oh gosh, I can't think of how to say it. Help me out here, guys. In her story, I guess, I don't know how else to say it. Anyway, she gave a deposition for her, because she's in the civil suit. So if you don't know her story, this might not make much sense, but I think that the attorney asking the question will gets the idea across fairly legitimately. My throat's starting to get super dry. I think it's this one. Yes, it is. This was horrible. Whoops. guess I got a plus start. Okay.
How many times did Holtzclaw touch you inappropriately?
He didn't touch me.
He never touched you?
No.
Next to the third to the last line says, Holtzclaw then asked plaintiff Barnes if there was anything under her breast and fondled plaintiff Barnes' naked breast. Do you see that?
You just read it. Yes, I see it, sir.
Isn't that different than what you testified today?
What do you mean is that different?
Didn't you say Holtzclaw didn't touch you?
He didn't touch me.
So this is a mistake.
He did not touch me.
Okay, and if you go back to defendant's exhibit number 11, which is the information, count 1.
Go ahead.
5 lines from the bottom of count 1, directing TB to expose her breast and then touching her bare breast with his hand without her consent. That's also a mistake.
He didn't touch me.
Okay. And you understand that Mr. Holtzclaw was convicted of sexual battery on that count as a result of your testimony?
Yes.
So that would have been a lie?
What would have been a lie?
The fact that he was charged with touching you.
I don't know what he was charged with. I know he was charged with 3 counts of me exposing myself.
Okay.
Just one further question, Ms. Barnes. You would agree, would you not, that you have to be 100% truthful about what you've told us today for you to prevail in your lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been 100% truthful with us today about everything that you claimed?
Yeah,
you haven't lied to us, right?
No. Everything that I remember is what I remember. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay, so the significance of that is, if you're not familiar with the case and with her story, is that in her initial spoon-fed report of her allegation, she claimed that he touched her, and that Daniel Holtzclaw touched her several times. I believe she claims that there were 2 or 3 encounters, and that they had, and hers is the one I'm stuck on trying to create content for, because it's so twisted and so many lies that are being told, and so much of Rocky Gregory, telling her what to say without actually, it's really bad. But anyway, she says in her report that he touched her several times on that initial contact that she had with Daniel. So then she says in her deposition, he didn't touch me. He didn't touch me. He didn't touch me. But she testified, she had it in her report, and she testified to it under oath in the trial that he touched her. So when she's giving her deposition, and the gentleman that you heard speaking, he's the attorney for Oklahoma City. And he's saying, now, wait a minute. Because all of these accusers have also named the city in their civil suit, which is something that we've talked about before. But anyway, she says that he says, so basically you're saying that he didn't touch you, but he was charged. He got charged 8 years. He's serving 8 years for touching you during one of these encounters, and now you're saying he didn't touch you? And she's like, yeah. When the attorney says, well, wouldn't that have been a lie? Well, what have been a lie? And she said, no, I'm just saying what happened. And she refuses during her deposition to say that, yeah, it's, I was mistaken. Even if she had said, yeah, I was mistaken, But she doesn't even do that. She just basically tells the city attorney, yeah, I'm not changing my testimony, what I testified to in court. So Daniel came up for parole on that specific charge alone, for Tabitha Barnes in, what was it, February or March this year. And not that parole would have, gotten him out of prison or anything, but it would have taken 8 years off of his sentence. When you're doing 263 years, every 8 years that you can get taken off of that sentence counts. And so anyway, she just was like, yeah, no, I'm not changing my testimony. I'm just telling you now, he didn't touch me. No matter what I said in my testimony, that's true. But I'm telling you now, it's not true. But I'm not changing my testimony. It's very, very horrible what that admission implies. It doesn't even imply it. It's definite. It's a definite inference. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But the parole board just was like, denied. And even though they had seen that deposition, we had sent that video to the parole board and done a press release, and they still were like, oh yeah, still denied. So it's, who can say what, what gets said and done, behind the scenes that we don't know about. Now I want to, because this is the other one, the other press release that we did, the other video that we did, it's about 8 minutes long. It's a little bit longer, but this one is going to be with Sherry Ellis, and she's the one who claimed that the police officer who sexually assaulted her during the traffic stop was a black cop, darker skinned than her and shorter than her. And let's see what she has to say in her deposition about this.
Hello? Is this Sherry? Yes. Sherry, this is Detective Davis. Yes, ma'am. Okay. You sound frantic in your messages. Oh yeah, because I don't know what's going on. It's okay. That's why I've been wanting to find you and just ask you something. Okay. Okay. I have received a tip on. I work in sex crimes, and I've been working some cases, and I received a tip that you may have been sexually assaulted by a police officer. Yes, I have. But I didn't say anything because I know that I know police department and police things all stick together. Well, we ain't sticking together on this one. Oh, okay. So I would like to interview you. I didn't ever get his badge number. I don't know anything. I was terrified. I just didn't know what was going on because he said I'll do that, or he was going. I don't know. I didn't know whether if I still did it, or is he going to take me to jail or what. It was a black man. Okay. He was in a black and white police car.
Sherry, I believe you. If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have been calling you, trying to find you. Okay. Let me ask you this. Tell me your description of him.
He's black.
He's black male. Muscular. How tall could you tell? You're pretty tall. How tall are you? How tall are you?
5'11".
Is he taller than you or shorter than you?
Like right here, maybe like that.
So you think he's shorter than you?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of car did he have?
A black and white one.
Black and white car?
Oklahoma City police car.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. I want to get a DNA sample from you today. And the reason I want to get a DNA sample is because I know what officer did this to you. Okay? And there is some unknown female DNA on his pants that I took. And I want to see if it's yours. This is a waiver saying that you are going to let me, Kim Davis, and I'm a detective, and this is where we're located, are going to let me take buccal swabs. It's just Q-tips on the inside of your mouth to get a DNA sample so I can compare it to the DNA on his pants. Okay? Yes, one more question. When you described him as a black male, what, and I don't know, everybody's like, what are you? Are you a medium color? What's your skin tone to you?
I'm white.
You're like, okay, what was he?
He's darker.
He's darker than you? Darker than your skin tone? Okay.
Okay, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You state your full legal name?
Sherry Louise Michelle Smith.
Who contacted you? If you
Kim
recall?
Davis.
Detective Davis?
Yes.
Okay. And where did she call you on the phone, or did she meet you in person?
She called me on the phone.
Okay. And what did you tell her on the phone?
She asked me if I had she asked me if I had any problems with the police officer, and I told her yes.
Did you meet her in person after the phone call?
Yes, sir.
And where did that meeting take place?
The DA's in that building next to the courthouse.
Okay. How tall are you?
5'11".
5'11". All right. And do you recall explaining to Miss Davis how tall this officer was that assaulted you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I'm going to hand you another exhibit. We marked it as exhibit number 4. That's a video still of you explaining to the officer how tall the person was that assaulted you. Do you recognize yourself in that image?
Yes, sir.
Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, how tall did you tell was the person that assaulted you?
I don't recall how tall I said he was, but I did say that he was shorter than I was.
Okay. And we say shorter than you by about how much? I mean, in that image, it looks like you're holding your hand up maybe to your shoulders.
Yeah.
So he came up to about your shoulders?
Yeah.
So maybe what, 5'5", 5'6"?
Yes.
A shorter man?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And how else would you physically describe the officer other than by height?
I said that he was black. He was dark complected. I think black. That's what I said.
I'm marking this plaintiff's exhibit A. I have a copy for you here. Miss Alice, do you recognize this individual?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How do you recognize that person?
From court.
Okay. Do you recognize that person from any other time in your life?
No.
At the time you were at trial, did you believe you had seen that individual before?
No. I've seen him. It's during trial, that's when I seen him.
Okay. Had you had any previous interactions with that man to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge. Besides him,
What do you mean?
it's besides, I haven't never seen him but before trial. That's when I finally seen who accused of raping me.
So that's pretty sickening to me. For those of you who are somewhat familiar with the case, and for those of you who are not familiar at all, this is Sherry Ellis who says, and you saw what she testified to in her phone interview with Kim Davis, and then I think it was 4 days later in the office face-to-face interview with Kim Davis. She very, very distinctly says that it was a black man and that he was shorter than her. She's 5'11", and that his skin was a darker tone than hers. She said that she had light skin as an African-American woman, and that the cop who sexually assaulted her had darker skin than her own. And as I put in the chat, Daniel is 6 foot tall. Actually, he's pale in color, especially comparatively, and just did not fit her description at all. And then in her deposition, she clearly says, and I listened to it over and over and over again to make sure I got every word correct. She clearly says that she had not seen, her attorney had handed her a picture of Daniel Holtzclaw in front of his first patrol car, which was originally a black and white car that he had been borrowing because his own black vehicle with the white lettering was in the shop. He's standing in front of a black and white vehicle, and that's the picture, even though that's not the vehicle that Daniel drove during the time of her alleged assault. That is the vehicle that her attorney chose to show her because it shows him standing in front of one of the older black and white vehicles. And so he shows her that picture, even though it's not relevant to her particular story. And she says, yes, I recognize him, but I only recognize him from when I saw him in court during the trial, is what she's saying. I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who that man was until I saw him at trial, and they told me that was the man that had been accused of raping me. And again, it's just unfathomable to me that she was able to say that. I mean, I don't know what I'm thinking here. I mean, she can say whatever she wants to say, of course, and nothing's going to be done about that. But for her to say that in her deposition under oath, and he was sentenced to prison for 62 or 63 years on her charges alone.
Isn't it, just, with everything else that, you just said and what we heard her say, for the judge to accept this into part of the trial record, when clearly what she described was not Daniel at all, other than being male. That's it.
Right. And
that was Henderson, right?
Henderson, the judge, yes, was Henderson. Yeah, we'll get to him in just 1 second. I do want to say too, thanks for bringing that up. She is asked in the trial, and I believe it was Daniel's attorney, I could be wrong, that asked her to identify the man in court who she claimed had assaulted her. and she couldn't identify him. She was looking around the courtroom, and they said, if you need to, you can stand up and look around and make sure you get a good look at everybody in the courtroom, and point out the officer who sexually assaulted you. And she couldn't point him out. She couldn't point Daniel out sitting at the defense table. So, and that was before the deposition. So, it's just, I don't know. It's mind blowing. Go ahead, Kay.
I was just reading Rock Knight's comment. Why would someone want to frame Holtzclaw? I asked myself that question so many times when I first started looking at this case. But, really, I think it just boiled down to how it was going to look for the city of Oklahoma City. I went back and did a lot of research about Oklahoma City had been in a real economic just in a bad place economically, and they were starting to come out of it about the time of the Oklahoma City bombing, and that set them way back. If you do some research on MAPS, MAPS projects in Oklahoma City, you can see where the city started and where they are now, where they were at the time that Janie Liggins accused Daniel Holtzclaw. And I really think, based on stuff that was going on around the United States, specifically down in Florida with the Trayvon Martin, with Zimmerman getting off, I think that really just rattled a bunch of people. And I think economically, they were just thinking, where will the riots happen in Oklahoma City? Are they going to destroy all of our progress? And I really think it is as simple as that. And people don't believe that, but the people who don't believe it also don't go take a look at how much money Oklahoma City has spent on revitalizing the city. It really is spectacular now. And one of the Grace Franklin said, they didn't know where they were going to riot if the verdict came back not guilty, but they were going to riot somewhere. So that's the only thing that really makes sense to me, because it is truly unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, as horrible as it is, it's just that simple. And especially by the time the incident in Ferguson rolled around, you've got a white cop who was not charged, and ultimately, or I guess he was charged, but ultimately found not guilty of the Michael Brown shooting. And so you start adding up some of those things, and of course, it makes sense that Oklahoma, regardless of what Kim and Rocky said in their interview with Michelle Malkin, there was definitely tension. And Grace Franklin, as Kay was alluding to, Grace Franklin basically says in the rest of the video, from Daniel in the Den video, she says, if we didn't get the verdict we wanted, we didn't know where we were going to go to riot, and she said the word riot, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kay's had to step away, but maybe Cherie can verify for me. But if I'm not mistaken, she actually said the words riot. Where are we going to riot if we don't get the verdict that we want? Meaning, Daniel being found guilty, because we can't go downtown. And, and Kay talked about that. They can't go downtown because that's where the whole MAPS project had been, taking place, and was building up Oklahoma City and making it a beautiful, desirable place to live at that point. So Grace Franklin knew she couldn't take her organization downtown to riot, And she said, and we're not going to do it in our own place. We're not going to riot in our own homes, at our own side of town. We're not going to screw up our side of the tracks, or whatever she meant by that. So she was already thinking ahead. Where are we going to go riot if we don't get the verdict we want? And there's so much that went on with that jury during Daniel's trial, and she thinks it's pretty damn funny when she's saying her part earlier in part of the video, when she's talking about how, yeah, the judge had to talk to the jury because we were so loud outside of the courtroom they could hear us, our chants, and hear us yelling, and the judge had to tell the jury not to pay attention to what they could hear outside. She's pretty damn proud of that. And I have some other videos that I've done with two of the jury members. And I've also got some flyers, or whatever you want to call them, that I've made as well, explaining how at least those two jurors were, well, the one juror was misled by what was said to them in court. So by the prosecutor. So there is a lot of evidence that the jury was nervous and afraid of making sure they gave the right outcome. So there's that. And then Jack, my big brother, brought something up. He said something about Judge Henderson. Now, unrelated specifically to this topic, Judge Henderson, so remember, he's the one who presided over Daniel's case, and Daniel's case was all about sexual assaults and things of that nature. That's what all of his charges were revolved around. Last March, the end of March, I think it was March 29th, last year, the headlines in the news were that Judge Timothy Henderson was going to be resigning because he had been accused of serious sexual assaults, and that's what it says in the paper, in quotes, serious sexual assaults against female ADAs, assistant district attorneys, and some defense attorneys in his court. And it really, really, really makes me angry, and it really pisses me off that even though he hasn't been charged, he hasn't been tried, he hasn't been convicted, but there, we're looking at witness statements claiming that he did. And so if he's guilty of those crimes, and I believe he is, at least of a couple of the accusations, who the hell was he to sit in judgment or pass judgment or pass sentence the way that he did on Daniel Holtzclaw when he was in the middle of whatever sexual escapades he had going on? Let's see here what Roxanne says. And remember, 4 months after Henderson resigned, they still had him listed as a judge in the courthouse with his courtroom. Yeah. Yeah. And we're still waiting, and we're not letting the Henderson thing go either, because, there's something dirty with Henderson, and it's being covered up. It's being held back. I'll say that. It's being held back. If it's being investigated and, like truthfully and honestly and legitimately investigated, everyone, it's being held back for some reason or other. And I don't know if that's because there's an election coming up in next week, in the primaries, or I don't know what the reason is. All I can surmise, because there's so much corruption in Oklahoma County, all I can surmise is that it's being covered, or it's going to be covered, or it's being held back from being released, the information, until they get past a a certain point in the elections. And Rock Knight says, does Holtzclaw still have the same legal counsel? And what is everyone's opinions of Holtzclaw's defense? No, he doesn't have the same legal counsel.
He had appointed counsel after his trial because he was indigent, and now he has counsel. He's been taken on by Uncuff the Innocent, which is a 501c3 organization that, among other things, represent clients who evidence shows that they've been wrongfully convicted. And they also supply body cams for police departments that don't have body cams. So Uncuff has hired counsel for him. As to his defense, that's not something, because he has a post-conviction appeal that's being filed, or brief that's being filed in the next short period of time. That's obviously not something that we're going to be discussing.
Yep, exactly. I put a link to Uncuff the Innocent there in the chat. Also, Cherie or Jack, do one of you want to go into Foul Play and grab the merch link as well?
Yep.
Thank
Just
you.
a second, I'll get it.
Thank you. Let's see. Robsky says, at Rock Night, if I knew that, I'd write a book. I'm saying what it looks like to me. You don't have to agree. Oh, okay, that was regarding Rock Night asking you why someone would want to frame Holtzclaw. Well, hopefully, Rock Night, hopefully you know, it sounds like you might have an open mind about the guilt or innocence of Daniel. And if I'm right about that, I appreciate it. I really do. And if I am right about that, or if I'm not right about that, I encourage you to, continue, go back and watch some of my other videos, or, follow me on Twitter, or I have an Instagram that I rarely put stuff in because I'm just I'm old, 60 years old. I don't do IG, but I do have some flyers that I've posted in Instagram, on my Instagram, that you can read. And it's not just stuff that I'm spouting about or that I'm saying off the top of my head, but Roxanne, who's in the chat right now, or she was, came up with an idea about, putting some clips from the actual trial transcripts and matching them against some inconsistent statements elsewhere, and making these like the little banners or whatever. And so I did 4 of those. It's not just, blowing off, or blowing smoke up somebody else's ass or anything. It's like legitimate trial transcript information and different things that have been said. And I put those into these banners that you can find on my Instagram. And I encourage you to go look at those. It's not something I can put in the description of the video or anything, but I guess that would be the easiest place to find them. Or if you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting them a little bit here and there lately too. There are facts that are not, well, through my research, I should say, that are, they're on Facebook as well. Yeah, it's not our words. Thank you, Roxanne. It's not; those aren't our words. They came right from Gayland Gieger, the prosecutor in Daniel's case. He lied. He straight up lied. Completely lied. That's another election that's coming up. I encourage, if you live in Oklahoma, or even if you don't. Hi, R. William. Thank you for joining us. Even if you don't live in Oklahoma, I don't live in Oklahoma, but I'm telling you what, I'm fighting for that election just as much as somebody who lives in Oklahoma. There is an election coming up. The primaries, I guess it is, next week, or I think Monday next week, or Tuesday, the 28th. to elect a new DA, because thank God David Prater is resigning or retiring, and Gayland Gieger, who prosecuted Daniel's case and lied to the jury, is running for DA in Oklahoma County, and that's not good. That is not. It's like that will just be Prater 2.0. Having Gayland Gieger elected as the district attorney in Oklahoma County is just like having Prater 2.0, and that will not be good, because he's not a good guy. He's not a nice guy. He's not an honest guy. They just had a debate last week, which was very interesting. And so, pay attention to that too. Jack has put in, all right, thank you. So Kay's going to run now. She's got places to go and people to see. Thank you so much for your help, Kay. It's always appreciated.
Hey, good to be on.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys later.
All right. Bye-bye.
You good?
Yeah. Thanks to everyone who joined. Appreciate it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, be safe. So, okay, good. Thank you, Roxanne, for doing that. So it's really, really a big deal, oddly enough. And so is the election for the Attorney General in Oklahoma County. Just as big a deal, because, electing John O'Connor is just as bad as Mike Hunter, who resigned shortly after Timothy Henderson resigned, because he was dirty and nasty and corrupt and having an affair and whatever. So and whatever, do your thing, go do your sexing and do whatever you got to do, and loving up and whatever you got to do, go do it. But don't take an oath that would make it so that doing that kind of a behavior while you hold an office like that doesn't look good. I mean, in both cases, with Timothy Henderson and with Mike Hunter, the former Attorney General, it's just, when I'm voting for somebody, or I'm looking at who I want to represent me and my family in my area, I want to have some assurity that person is at least a decent, moral, ethical person. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't expect perfection, of course not. But some decency, some morals, and some ethics, some self-respect. And there's not a whole lot of that I can see that comes out of Utah, Oklahoma County at this point. So, yeah, so that's going to be my nutshell version of what Daniel's case is about. And I believe there's nothing in me that has even thought for a second that Daniel is guilty of any of these crimes. And people will ask, well, okay, maybe not 13, maybe not all of them, but I think he did do something wrong. No, that has never been a part of my mindset with Daniel's case, particularly after the research and of documents and things that I've done. There's no room for guilt in my mind, and it's not because I don't have an open mind. It's because I know what I know. I know what I've read, and I know what I didn't get anything from mainstream media. I didn't get anything from newspapers or YouTube videos or anything like that. I did my own research, and I found documents that where I got my information from. And those documents are the truth to me. And so, but if you are here and you are, considering or wondering or thinking or, but what if, I invite you to, with a respectful attitude and an open mind, to keep coming back or go back and look at some of my other videos. And if you want specific videos, to certain questions, just reach out and let me know. And, it's just, anyway, there's plenty of us who you can reach out to in any kind of platform, really, to get information. If you want information, I mean, if you really want to know the truth. That's I don't know. That's kind of, I can tell I'm getting passionate because I'm starting to get a little warm. I don't know if maybe I should just stop talking, or, I welcome any other comments from Jack or Cherie. If you have anything you'd like to add or ask, or any questions that we have from anybody in the chat.
You're doing great. It's understandable. This is another very polarizing case and situation, because it's awful these women were attacked. Having to filter through and separate what these officers, especially, I can't just say one or the other. It was both of them, under whatever direction, and I do believe they were directed to do it. I believe that wholeheartedly, because their actions dictated a different course than what at least some of these women reported. Short black guy, darker than me, was not Daniel, and they kept going anyway. This judge allowed it. So what the fuck was going on in that county? Something else was dictating these actions. That's what I see from it. I get hot about it too, because if they could do this to a cop, just think about, and the Holtzclaws weren't like wealthy, but I mean, they were doing fine. I'm sure folks had savings, which I'm sure they've spent. I'm sure Daniel, I'm sure he probably didn't have a lot of money, because cops, especially early on, don't make that much money. But they were, they did okay. They worked hard for their money, had a decent life, middle income, maybe slightly on the higher side of that. But it's a very polarizing kind of thing, because now you see these police officers in this specific case did what they wanted to do. And I think it was what they were. This is my allegation, my opinion. I don't have any paperwork to back it up, but that's what I believe. That's what I see. I can only base on the end result, no matter what these women said. I see the actions of these police officers and where it went, and they were enabled to do it. That's the other part of it, right? So it's very polarizing. Now I'm getting a little hot. So yeah, that's my 5 cents worth. Okay, are you gonna get excited too? Get hot like I did? Come on, Kay.
I think she might be gone. She might be listening, but I think she's getting ready to travel or something.
Oh, well.
Possibly. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I said Kay. Yeah, I meant Cherie. I said Kay.
Oh, okay.
I meant Cherie. My bad.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah, Cherie, I know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it makes me very angry, just like you guys. But I do think you did a good job of doing the short version of this case. It was, enough to show can't think of the word, cluster blank that happened there.
Yeah. It's like a I've had a hard time describing it too, like a very basic introduction into it.
Let me help you out with that word, Cherie. It's clusterfuck. Okay, I said it. Thanks. I'll mute now.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cherie.
I couldn't think of
She couldn't think of it. Okay, whatever. Cherie is very sweet. Cherie and I, we have birthdays within a day of each other, and we're both Geminis, and so Cherie is the good twin, and I am the not so good
Well,
twin.
I know people who might differ with you on that. But
She says that, but I have yet to hear her saying like whenever she does, she's struggling to, she's thinking it, but she just can't get it out. I'm just like, would you like, here, I'll say it for you because I don't have a problem. So yeah, it's but yeah, it is really hard. And for those of you, and there are several yeah, thanks, Jack. There are probably a lot of you in the chat are from the foul play community, where we have research and follow Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's wrongful convictions, and it's really, again, it's about being wrongfully convicted. It's not about it's about justice, and it's about truth, and it's about screw a conviction if you're having to lie to get one, or even bend the truth to get one. Like that's not justice. That's just a notch on your bedpost or whatever. I guess that's for a different topic, but that's just a notch in your conviction belt, I guess, if you're a prosecutor. And I just, it's just, I can't imagine being able to be needing to compromise myself even in the smallest way to be a prosecutor. And I don't think you need to compromise yourself. I think you need to, if you know that you don't have a case or that your case is weak, then don't file the charge. Just don't file the charges on it. Don't go to court. Don't take it to trial. If you don't have a clear-cut case of guilt, then you need to wipe that one off the desk and move on to the next. But there are, unfortunately, many prosecutors in our country who are willing to bend that, walk over that, stomp on that.
And it doesn't keep the public safe. And the other thing is that they could turn around and do the same thing to you. They get pissed off at you, or need a scapegoat.
Yes.
It's very scary.
That's the scary part right there. And there's not, we see these polarizing cases, with these, I really call them almost cartoonish type personality prosecutors, Gayland Gieger. What's the dude from the Duke lacrosse case? Mike Napong. Mike Napong.
Oh, yeah.
That Johnson or Jackson guy from Texas, Ken Kratz making a murder, or the Avery case. Even Fallon, to some degree, fits in that category. Not so much gone, but a little bit. But these people that they spend their time in many ways just ignoring what's the statutes, or just like Cherie and Rhonda have said, they just push it aside, or they omit it from the conversation entirely, so that way they get away with it, and they sell the story. Again, I just this case here, it's a horrible case of injustice to me, that it was about something entirely different than 13 women getting assaulted. That's what I see, because the proof's not there. But the end result was, and that's to keep their city from these major riots from breaking out, because certain things were happening within the country. I'm not saying the writing was correct. Something had to be said. Something needed to be done. I don't really necessarily agree with the writing, and I understand it, again, but I don't really agree with it, because
protesting is fine. Peaceful protesting is fine. Rioting because you don't get what you want, no.
Right. Loudly protesting is fine, as long as you don't destroy someone's property that has nothing to do with it. Maybe you want them to join your fight, but they don't want to, and that's their right. there are other ways to accomplish. Maybe it's going to take longer, and I get it. I think we all do. But yeah, I just that's just what I see. Actions. I see the results of these actions that do not align with what was put before this jury. I just don't. That's me.
Yeah, that's me too, no doubt. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up now. Like I said, this wasn't meant to fill all of your questions for sure, but definitely meant to pique your curiosity and make you want to learn more about it. And whether you do that by listening to the Brian Bates podcasts, which is incredible, are incredible sources of information.
Excellent. It's really good.
Brian Bates. I mean, that's the information. That's where you go if you want a lot more detail and a lot more information and breakdown of most of these individual storylines.
He really dials off deep into things, and he's not just from everything that listen to Brian Bates. He said he wants the truth out there. He's like us, he just wants everything out on the table,
right?
Instead of this omitting this or omitting it, even if it's not necessarily information that will help Daniel. He still wants it out there to play fair all the way across the board. So
right.
And I put the link in there again for the merch store.
Thank you. So the link that Jack has dropped into the chat, if you're not familiar with it, it's to a merch store in Foul Play, and there are some Holtzclaw, some Daniel Holtzclaw. There's some merchandise in that store that you can purchase. There's also Foul Play, Stephen, mostly Foul Play, I guess, merchandise in that store. Anything that's purchased, everything that's purchased in the Teespring store right now in Foul Play, at that link that Jack has posted, all 100% of the proceeds from every single sale is going to Uncuff the Innocent. And
we don't get any of that. We don't want any of it. We're gonna any profits from that gets donated.
Yeah, right now. Right now it's all going to Uncuff the Innocent. It's been for the last 4 months, and I think there's 2 more months that it's going to be that the profits will go to Uncuff the Innocent, and then and then we'll choose another nonprofit. But right now it's for Uncuff the Innocent, and it's really not. I'm not just in support of Daniel, but I hold it very dear to my heart because Daniel is part of Uncuff the Innocent organization benefits, and so it definitely means a great deal to me in that respect. But I mean, just go, take that link, follow that link, and go into the merch store and see if there's something in there that you'd like to purchase. And even if it's not anything related to Daniel or Uncuff the Innocent, the profits will still go to Uncuff the Innocent for 2 more months. So not a bad gig, I don't think. And I know, oh yes, I'm on a show. Hey, I'm doing a show, sis.
This broke.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So glass is outside. Everything is outside.
Okay.
But nothing is here.
All right. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, I just love my little grandkids. Sorry, that was my little granddaughter. She was bringing me something that fell out of my truck and broke. She's so sweet.
Oh, no.
Anyway, go check out Teespring. If you can pick something up, great. If not, share the link. Just spread the word. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like the video, and share it. I really look forward to hearing comments that are respectful on the videos. So if you have any comments or questions on this video or any of the others that I've done, please feel free to leave those comments. And yes, I do want subscribers because the more people that I can share this case with, the better. And so, yeah, I'm begging for subs right now because I need to reach more people, not for any other reason. It's not about any other reason, but, getting more awareness to Daniel's case. And, this isn't the only thing. I mean, most of the time on my channel, I'm covering Daniel's case or like tentacles of Daniel's case. Like, for instance, the Henderson, disgraced former Judge Henderson. I've done a couple of videos on him. There are videos that I've done about Gayland Gieger. So there are other videos as well that aren't directly related to Daniel's case, but they're related to people who are a part of Daniel's case in one way, shape, or form. But for the most part, that's what I cover is Daniel's case. That doesn't mean that I'm not following other cases. I am very interested in Richard Glossip. He's in Oklahoma. He's a man on death row in Oklahoma, again, who is, I believe, 100% innocent, and he's due to be executed in probably sometime in August. And so I've talked about Richard Glossip's case a little bit, and as things happen in his case, I might dedicate an entire show to his case. I think I've done at least one that I can think of. Julius Jones, he's no longer on death row, but, he's still in prison, and I believe he's innocent. Oklahoma has a horrible history, a dark, dirty, corrupt history of convicting innocent men of crimes and putting them in prison, and oftentimes on death row for crimes they didn't commit. And they have executed innocent men in Oklahoma. And I'm not talking about just one or two here and there. I'm talking about, I want to say 8 to 12. I don't remember the exact number, but 8 to 12 in the last probably 3 decades. So there's a problem in Oklahoma, a big, big problem. And I'm here to expose as much of it as I can find factual evidence of. So, and I know Cherie is, and I know Jack is as well, and Kay, of course. And a lot of you in the chat feel the same way. So with that, Jack, do you have any other comments or anything?
No, I think we covered that pretty good. Are
Cherie,
you talking about any other comments from other than this, or just mainly?
Just other comments. Yeah, anything you want to? I mean, I know there's some pretty fun stuff going on in foul play, but that's not my thing to talk about necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most people here, they're familiar, but there's going to be some. There's some things that I did this big open records request, and considering how it was treated, I suspected that much of it was new, and it turns out that it's not. Some of it is.
Yeah.
But given those things, going through it, and some things are going to be released that are already out there that foul play doesn't have their own specific copy.
Their own copy of
interviews. There are some phone calls that are new that are going to be released. Yeah, and I promised everyone, when this all occurred, that I just didn't want to dump a ton. I don't think any of us appreciate just having, it's like having a bucket of water poured on you.
Data dumps are hard.
It is hard because you forget, things get lost in the shuffle. I just think it's better to maybe release a thing or two per day until we get everything out there, instead of just dumping everything in an entire day. The phone calls we got a few months ago were a little bit different because they were all kind of part of the same deal. The NTSO calls that Rookie was able to finally get, that was a little bit different situation. Right. But I also know the effect, it's kind of maddening, So I just think that it's better to release some of this stuff.
Little
Just take
little
little
drops at a
bits at a
time,
time.
or yeah.
Absolutely. So that's coming. So just wanted to get that out there.
Cool. Well, we'll keep our eyes out for foul play videos coming out too.
Thank you.
Huh? Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Jack. Cherie, any last little things you'd like to share?
Just thanks everybody for coming, and like I said, good job on a quick overview of the case. A very complicated case.
It is. Well, it's 13 cases. It's 13 cases in one trial.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, if you're not already, please subscribe. Please share this video. Share all of my videos. If you know, like it, and please comment. Please leave your comments, and I will respond to them. I like to read my comments. They help me, you know, if I need to change something or do something different or expand on something, you know, that's the only way I can know. So if you kind of, you know, if you kind of like what I'm doing already, or if you'd like to see me do it a different way or cover something different, please let me know in the comments. It will help me. It will help me to be better at this, and, you know, to share information that, you know, on Daniel's case that people really want to know about. And, you know, as much of it as I can share, I absolutely will. So with that said, I want to thank everybody who's here. Oh, thank you, Robsky. That's I appreciate that. With that being said, I am going to go ahead and just say for this one tonight, peace out.
Good night, everyone.